Alright YouTube fam, welcome Chessbooks Worldwide. Get ready for a game that had me on the edge of my seat. We are talking about the high stakes showdown at the recent Esports Chess World Cup, where the world's traditional chess and modern competitive gaming collided. In one corner we have the legendary Hikaru Nakamura, a chess grandmaster known worldwide not just for his incredible talent on the board, but also for being the undisputed king of chess streaming. His lightning fast, rapid and blitz skills are what make him a fan favorite. In the other corner, we have the young prodigy from India, Arjun Erigaisi. At just 21 years old, he's a rising star with a fearless and unpredictable style that can throw even the most seasoned grandmasters off their game. And it all went down in the third best playoff. Arjun seemed to have a win in the grasp with a brilliant move that left Nakamura visibly shaken. But as we all know, we can never count Hikaru out, especially when the clock is ticking. Did Arjun hold his nerve, or did Hikaru show his famous never say die attitude and pull off one of the most incredible comebacks in the tournament? You are about to find out. Stick around to see how this epic rapid game unfolded. This was the semi-finals of the Esports Chess World Cup between Arjun Erigaisi and Hikaru Nakamura. So in the white pieces we have Arjun Erigaisi, in the black pieces Hikaru Nakamura. Ladies and gentlemen, let the action start. Arjun played d4 and we see d5 from Nakamura, c4 the main line, and after e6 queen's gambit declined, we see knight c3, bishop comes to e7, c takes d5, e takes d5, bishop comes into f4, and now we see c6, e3 opening up for the bishop, bishop comes to f5, knight comes into e2, knight d7, knight goes to g3, attacking the bishop which is on f5, bishop goes to g6, h3 opening up a running square, knight comes to b6, and now we see knight h5, bishop takes h5, queen takes h5, we see knight f6 attacking the queen, queen comes back to f3, and after we see bishop b4 pinning down the knight, and in this position Arjun played queen d1 retreating back the queen, and after knight comes into e4, queen c2, knight comes back to f6, bishop d3, bishop comes into d6. Arjun begins to become creative. Long castling was played, but however bishop g5 should have been considered, so Arjun just went on to play long castling. Bishop takes f4 should have been considered, but he played queen e7. Also planned to go ahead for castling, Arjun played king b1, but however bishop takes d6 should have been considered, so Hikaru went on and played long castling also, queen b3. Now he's ready to begin attacking Nakamura, trying to create an attack on the queen side, and now also Nakamura goes on and plays king goes to b8. Arjun plays f4, trying to create more pressure on Hikaru. Bishop takes f4, e takes f4. In this position, queen comes into c7, attacking the pawn which is on f4, trying to drop back knight on d7, or knight coming into c8 in case of f5, and Arjun went on to play f5, and after knight comes to c8, a6, and after b6, this is the critical moment of the game, played g3, defending the pawn, and now we see knight d6. We said now the two knights are putting an eye on the e4 square, and also the rook can be possibly coming into e8, also putting an eye on the open file. Rooks belong to open files, so we see rook coming into e1, queen d7, trying to hit on the pawn which is on h3, g4 defending the pawn, and after h5 hitting on the pawn, we see g5, and now we said now Arjun is attacking on both sides of the board. In this position we see knight coming into e8. Arjun went on and played knight f4, but however knight a2 should have been considered, followed by either knight coming into c7. So we see knight f4, and now Nakamura goes on and plays knight c7, putting an eye on the pawn which is on a6. So rook comes to c1, and now you know that now this pawn which is on c6 is now a weakness. Now we see knight coming into b5, queen b4, queen takes h3, and after bishop takes b5, and now we see c takes b5, and now we see knight c3. Nakamura feels that now Arjun has gotten the winning line, because now you see the knight is attacking the pawn which is on b5, also knight is attacking the pawn which is on d5. We went on and played queen d3, defending the pawn, but however queen d7 should have been considered. So after queen d3, check king goes to a1, and after queen comes into c4 asking for an exchange, knight a2. In this position, Nakamura grasped and flinched, and he felt that now Arjun Erigaisi is having an opportunity to bounce back in the game, because now in case of queen takes down, the knight is going to be taking the queen, attacking the pawn, which is on d5, and they said now the rook has also open files where it can enter into the black camp. Queen takes b4, knight takes b4, and now we see rook comes into d8 asking for an exchange. Rook comes into e5, and rook takes e5, d takes e5, knight comes into f5. Arjun went on and played knight c6 check, and after king goes into a8, e6 should have been considered, but he played knight comes back to b4. For example, in case of e6, then we could see f takes e6, knight e5, and after h4, rook c7, knight coming into c6, be unstoppable checkmate, and now we could see knight coming into d4, stopping and knight c6 jumps, knight goes on to g6. After king comes to a8, Arjun played knight b4, and now we see h4 from Hikaru, pushing on the passed pawn. Knight takes d5 should have been considered, but he played rook coming in on c7, knight d4, stopping any knight c6 advancements. He played rook takes f7, which was a position in inaccuracy. In this position, king a2 should have been considered. For example, after king a2, then we could see h3, rook coming into c1 stop the pawn from queening, h2, rook h1, king b8, knight takes d5, and after king c8, knight e3, king d7, knight f1, knight coming into f3. But after knight d4, he played rook takes f7, and now we see h3, and after e6, h2, and after pawn coming to e7, promoted the pawn to queen, king a2, queen comes to h5, attacking the rook, and now we see rook f8 check, queen goes to e8, rook takes e8, rook takes e8, knight takes pawn on d5, setting up a cheap trap, which is knight coming into c7, forking the king and the rook. And in this position, Hikaru went and played king b8, and it was in this position that Arjun Erigaisi resigned the game. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in your games.